We've talked about creepy areas and locations on this channel before, and a lot of these areas have been islands that have a dark story or background. It's safe to say that islands are some of the best settings for scary locations because it can be easy for the world to forget about them and leave them to their own isolation. Well, today we're going to take a look at just that. So here are the 7 creepiest islands on Earth. Number 7 is Hart Island. Situated in New York City, Hart Island is a small piece of land that is only around a quarter of a mile wide, but it still has a long and dark history regardless. In 1865, it was used as a prisoner of war camp for 4 months, and in that short amount of time, 235 prisoners died at the camp. It was also used as a sanatorium for tuberculosis where patients would be quarantined and often left to die. As well as this, the island has been the home of a boys' reformatory and a psychiatric institution, so it's safe to say that most of the island's history has been quite disturbing. So much so that it was converted into a cemetery in the mid-1800s. There are over 1 million bodies buried on this small island, a lot of whom are unidentified and 1/3 of which happen to be infants or stillborn babies. Today, Hart Island is the largest tax-funded cemetery in the world. Number 6 is Rebirth Island. Situated in Central Asia, Rebirth Island is a derelict, run-down area in the Aral Sea that has a disturbing past. It used to be the home to over 1,500 people, but that began to change in 1954 when the Soviet Union used the island and created a biological weapons test site. After that, the area was used consistently for a wide range of experiments, and this would turn out to be the island's downfall. In 1971, an accidental release of weaponized smallpox infected 10 people in a nearby town, 3 of whom died. Because these experiments were proving to be counterproductive and unnecessary, the site was closed down in 1991 and the nearby town was evacuated. Today, all that is left is a run-down island that has been contaminated by anthrax experimentation, forcing most of the visitors to wear gas masks when entering the area. Number 5 is Monkey Island. Across the Farmington River in Liberia, there's an island that has been given the nickname Monkey Island. It's called this because over 60 violent chimpanzees live there, all of whom are infected with various different contagious diseases. The YouTube channel Motherboard made a documentary where they went to Liberia and found out why these chimpanzees were on this island. They met up with Betsy Brotman, the former director of Vilab, an animal testing site established in 1974 that tested cures for diseases like hepatitis. After the site was closed in 2005, the remaining chimpanzees were put on an island where they could live out the rest of their lives. While there is a core staff of people that feed the animals, the chimpanzees are still very vicious and will attack and most likely kill anybody that is unfamiliar to the island. For this reason, only a few people are allowed onto the actual island, and even they don't go very far. Number 4 is Spike Island. Spike Island is a small piece of land in Cork, Ireland that has consistently had a small population, but because of its dark past, it now sits as a tourist attraction with no permanent residents living there. For a few hundred years, it has been the home to a fort, but was converted into a prison in the 19th century that held over 2,300 convicts. Overcapacity was a major issue, and many of the prisoners were jailed for minor charges, but because of the flawed justice system in Ireland at the time, a lot of them never left the island and died in the prison. These convicts were often unfairly treated, and because the prison was unfit to deal with the amount of people they locked up, the prisoners were also fed poorly and many of them developed both physical and mental diseases because of the harsh conditions. Ireland's Alcatraz was a nickname given to the prison, but many experts have argued that this prison was much worse than Alcatraz, and it is often considered to be one of the worst prisons in European history. Number 3 is the Izu Islands. The Izu Islands are actually a collection of over a dozen volcanic islands that are a part of the Tokyo Prefecture in Japan. While some of the islands have small populations, almost half of them are completely abandoned. This is because the islands are rampant with volcanic activity. which not only give the islands a foggy Silent Hill type vibe, but also force the residents of the populated islands to wear gas masks every time they go outside. Because of the consistent threat of volcanic eruptions, many deaths have occurred on these islands. The largest of the abandoned islands, Torishima, had a population of 150 people in 1902. However, when a nearby volcano erupted, the entire population died and no one has lived on the island since. Another 31 people were killed in Miyakojima for the same reason. Because of the volcanic activity on the islands, the residents could be evacuated at any time, and it has happened on numerous occasions in recent years. Number 2 is the Island of the Dolls. Situated in Mexico, the Island of the Dolls is a very mysterious place, and it is hard to separate fact from fiction, as there are many different accounts as to why the island is the way that it is. The story goes that a man discovered a young girl's body in a canal and found a doll next to her body. As a mark of respect, he hung the doll up on a tree in the island that he lived on. It's said that after this, he began to hear whispers and footsteps, and he believed that he was being haunted by the spirit of the dead girl. In order to find some kind of peace, the man spent the next 50 years of his life hanging more and more dolls on trees in order to please the girl and get her to leave him alone. Now, this may be nothing more than a legend told by locals, but the reality is that the island is now abandoned and covered to the brim in deteriorating dolls that give the island an extremely creepy feel. People who travel to the island also claim that they have heard whispers, and many people believe that the girl's spirit never left the island and still haunts it to this day. And number 1 is Hashima Island. Hashima Island is an abandoned piece of land that exists 9 miles off the coast of Nagasaki. The city of Nagasaki is surrounded by over 500 uninhabited islands, but Hashima is one of the most well-known and prolific abandoned islands in the entirety of Japan. This is because of its dark and long history that spans over hundreds of years. A large amount of coal was discovered on the island in the early 1800s. Because of this, coal mining became a common practice on the island, but it was often done under harsh conditions. An example of this occurred in the 1930s when Chinese prisoners of war were forced to mine for coal. This continued until the end of the Second World War, and in that time 1,300 laborers died because of the harsh and unsafe conditions they were forced to work in. Many other workers, including Japanese employees, also died on this island. Because coal mines were becoming more and more redundant, the mine eventually closed in 1974, and the island's residents were evacuated. Apart from the occasional tourists who visit this island, this piece of land is essentially undisturbed but extremely overgrown and dangerous. Many of the structures still stand today, but because of earthquakes and other natural disasters, they could fall at any time. All of this has led to the island now having a haunted feel and look, and it's no surprise that nobody has tried to repopulate the area since it was evacuated. And that's it for this video. Thanks a million for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you want to see similar videos, you can consider subscribing. As always, the footage used, the music, and the sources will be linked down below. You can follow me on my Twitter and Instagram, both of which are Burke321, but like I said, that's all for now. As always, until next time.